And here we are. Hello, good morning. Well, if
Brian.
It's morning where you are, it's morning where I am. It's Saturday service. It's just after 8 o'clock here on the Pacific Coast. I'm joined by a whole group of friends, and friends all at the ready to wave. Hold on.
Your wave.
Wait. I wasn't ready for the wave part yet. There we are. There you guys are. If you would all wave. And we're not going to do this view too much because I know it makes people a little bit uncomfortable. And here's the new view. This is the view of me from up there on the top. So you can see that it's not all...
there, that's his studio.
It's just my studio. This is my office. This is where I'm working from. This is the view that I like to show people. But I'm not embarrassed to show you that my office is not as pristine as what I show.
You don't have a pulpit.
This is my pulpit. So good morning to everyone who I haven't said hi to yet. Joan and Sam and Jordan and Bobby and Annie and Ann and Al and anyone else who's watching this after the fact. I'm glad that you're here. This is the Saturday service. I'm Rabbi Brian. I wrote in an email, this is like a giant tortoise of religious services. This is just a different evolution, a different way of doing a service. And in this service, if you've never been here before, welcome. I do ask people to keep their microphones open because I want this to stay engaging and interactive. There's a lot of wisdom. I have some, but the amount of wisdom that is collected by all the people who are in this group is phenomenal. And we get to teach each other and ask questions. And I always love when people ask and they ask for clarification because that's how we know knowledge and that's how we can let me does that make sense? So that was actually what I wanted to say. And I made a note of that. I hear that phrase all the time. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And I wanted to address that. Please stop saying that phrase. And let me explain why. If you ask, does that make sense? It gives people the binary options of yes or no. Mm. And if it's a yes, well, maybe it was only 70% yes and there was a part they were confused about. So instead of asking, hey, does that make sense? Say something more along the lines of, could you repeat back to me what you heard me say? Or does that remind you of anything? Or anything to get some other feedback more than, does that make sense? Does that make any sense? Don't answer that. That was rhetorical, that last one.
It does.
Okay.
I hate it when people say that to me.
Yeah. So what's the problem with saying, does that make sense? Go ahead, Emily.
If I don't quite agree with it, it just puts, I feel like I'm put on the spot to say yes, makes sense. And then I'm sort of like stuck.
Yeah. So go ahead.
It also cuts off dialogue. It cuts off dialogue.
Yeah, Arlene, you're absolutely right. It cuts off dialogue.
Yeah.
I'm used to saying, does that make sense to you?
Does that make sense to you?
What I'm asking is, what are you perceiving in what I'm saying?
Yeah, and then maybe if you want to use it to make sure that you pause enough.
Yeah.
I remember hearing an international student in graduate school, and she was complaining to a friend of hers about a third person. And she said, she keeps treating me like I'm stupid because while she's talking, she keeps saying, you know, like I don't know. And I do know. I'm not stupid. So I wanted to start with that. A second piece, and welcome to those of you who are just joining. Glad you're here. The second piece that I wanted to reflect back on in language and what I've been hearing is I'm hearing people speak in the second person singular, which is the you, right? The first person's I, second person you, third person he, she, it. I'm hearing people say things in second person singular. What you find, so this is all going to be in quotes. This is not me talking. This is me talking as someone else. this terrible thing happened to me. And what you find out when a terrible thing happens to you is that you need to blah, 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 blah. And if it's put in the second person, two problems with that come to mind. One, maybe that's not the experience the other person would have. Right? You're dictating what experience someone else is going to have, and that might not be the right one. And second, if we say it cuts it, it's more comfy. What you find out is that you felt is easier to say than first person. What I found out when that happened to me was that I don't react well. So I'm going to ask, if we can, to keep in mind as we're talking, to try to move from second person what you find out to first person what I found out, and to bring it a little closer to home. Yeah, Betsy Ann.
So I've been trying to practice not using that tense and recognizing when it's really what I have found out, or when one finds out, because I realize it's kind of a group of experiences that I'm trying to bring into what I'm talking about. So
Right. Okay, so there probably are times in which you is fine to say. Let's just be aware of it, because there are times where we're veering off into preaching.
Right, but the one is a group as the third person as opposed to the second person.
Right. And we've lost one these days is perceived as sort of intellectual speak. Regular people don't use one, and therefore, so you end up with the you as the default.
Correct.
It's unfortunate.
It is unfortunate. So what you'll find out when you do that is, or what one finds out, or what I found out was, I'm going to stick with, let's try to stick to first person singular. And when we goof up, we goof up. Which is, I have a card here, and oh golly gee.
Ray had his hand up before. I don't know if you
go ahead, Ray.
Oh, I took it down, but what we might do is every time you do that is put a penny in a can.
Put a penny in the can, do
Or a
something.
dime or a quarter.
Yeah.
3 shekels or whatever, a couple of rubles.
Well, rubles are not worth what they used to be.
Worth anything.
So thank you, Ray. I'm gonna shift us a little bit to, we put up yellow and blue construction paper, and we made a flag in our front window, and we got a note in our mailbox. It said, "You did the flag upside down."
Oh.
And ironically or not, 3 doors to the left, we have a ex-Marine, well, still a Marine, because you're never not a Marine, and he flies his American flag every day upside down as a protest against the government. So I was not protesting against the Ukrainian government. I was trying to be supportive, and I did the flag, 50-50 chance, and got it wrong. Some members of our household, all I'm trying to say is not me, were embarrassed, like totally embarrassed that a lot of people saw the flag, and it got me to this thought, and I need a little bit of help with it, because I don't know what word goes in the blank. The blank of any organization can be seen in how mistakes are tolerated. The blank of any organization can be seen in how mistakes are tolerated.
Health.
Humanity. Culture.
Okay.
Integrity.
I'm going to put all those words right there.
The leadership.
The leadership, the integrity, the culture, the character.
The compassion.
The compassion of every organization can be seen in how.
Whole.
The whole.
The openness.
The openness of an organization can be seen in how mistakes are tolerated.
Like the spelling of tolerated in this case?
Yes. Yes.
Excuse me one moment.
The sense of
Oh, there you go.
Tolerated.
How about
It's an accent.
Yeah.
That's a very thick L.
Yeah.
Tolerated.
Okay, so one of the things that I happen to be quite good at is tolerating my own mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Or tolerating my own mistakes.
Sign of good mental health.
Yeah. Jane was not as tolerant of the fact that we put I was like, whatever. But she was upset by it. And
I was upset by the fact that it was upside down, or did you put it?
No, that it got installed upside down.
Ah, okay.
Is that because it felt disrespectful?
Right.
No, I think it was.
She was worried about the intentions of the person who criticized it. She was worried about the criticizing.
She was just flat out embarrassed. I think.
Yeah, because for making the mistake. Yeah, because it feels disrespectful and ignorant.
For making a public mistake, right? That's quite a public mistake. It's in our front window. And I wonder if you consider for yourself, as your own organization, how well do you tolerate mistakes when you make them?
Ooh, okay.
Because being perfect, dudes, I don't know if you know this, it's fucking exhausting. Excuse my language again.
And impossible.
Oh, yeah.
Mistakes are a part of life.
Yeah. Mistakes are, like, that's how we grow.
The perfect is the enemy of the good.
Yeah.
Carol, would you say that again because it seems vaguely important?
The perfect is the enemy of the good.
Right?
Right.
If a surgeon is doing heart surgery and they try to do it perfectly, someone's going to bleed out before they finish.
That's perfect.
So
I don't know if I want that surgeon, but anyway,
how well can you tolerate your own mistakes? That's the first question. And I like somebody's got their hand up just like this. Thank you, Patricia. Just this much. And how well, so let's do it on two different hands because we have, most of us, two hands. How do you tolerate mistakes? Uh-oh. Please hold. There we go. How well do you tolerate your own mistakes? Let me see on the screen with your fingers, and I'm going to switch over to that view so we can all see that. I just want on one hand, how the distance between your thumb and other fingers, how well you tolerate mistakes in yourself. And now the other hand, how well do you tolerate mistakes in others?
Little less.
We got some more, some less. Some people have more for others, and some people have less for others. Does that strike anyone as odd?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
Does it push anyone towards, hey, maybe there's some homework in this?
Yeah.
Yeah?
If we don't make mistakes, we don't learn.
Right? The only way my kids learned to walk was by falling.
Mm-hmm.
It's just how we learn. We learn by making mistakes. It's not an easy thing to do to flip the switch and say, oh, I guess that's just another learning opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't learn from falling. They learned by trying to get there.
That's a really good point, Rob.
And they kept going.
Right. And if I can add in another piece to kids learning, is they learn because they see other people doing it right.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe noticing when people are forgiving would help us to see that.
We also learn from seeing people doing it wrong.
Yeah.
And going, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. I flew last week to to Texas for a wedding, and my flight was 3 hours delayed, which caused delays and delays and delays, right? All the problems. And I saw, so a line forms, so everyone who has to get their connections rebooked gets online. And I saw how many people online seemed intolerant of a mechanical failure on the plane. And in my head, it beat driving. Like, what am I going to do? They're intolerant of the mistake, or they're intolerant of it not going the way that they thought it should go.
But
and whose life were they making miserable?
There's
And they were also trying to spread that around. They were making their own lives more miserable, and they were, and I thought to myself as I saw this, oh dear.
Gotta be thankful they caught the mistake while the plane was still on the ground.
Yes.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Yes.
That
yes,
is
Betsy.
excellent.
They said, well, why didn't they show up early and check this out before we got here? Our flight was supposed to leave at 6 a.m.
Because sometimes you don't know until the pressure builds up in the lines that you've got a leak.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So, homework number 1 for everyone. Tolerate mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes along with what we talked about last week. We talked about last week about being kind to other people, not just for them, but because it makes your life easier. And we talked with Meg. Meg, are you here? There you are, Meg. Would you unmute yourself, please? I did hear from someone, and I checked this out with Meg ahead of time, and she said it was all right. Now, I did hear from someone in an email. They said, I want to be more like Meg. And Meg said that was a little embarrassing, but I see a smile on a bunch of people's faces. And Meg, I'm going to pick on you for a moment.
Uh-oh.
Folks, what is it about Meg you want to be more like?
Her calmness.
Her honesty.
Mm-hmm. What else? Meg,
Good
try to
sense.
take it all in. Go ahead.
She's so smart.
Yeah.
Her ability to get points across clearly and without heat.
Yeah.
Creativity. Yeah, her acceptance of herself.
Oh, yeah.
Hairdo.
I would add in,
Self-revelation.
I would add in Meg's non-plusness about being seen as a bit of an asshole.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yep.
And her sense of humor.
Yeah.
Yes.
But also a willingness to adjust when necessary.
Right.
She really
She owns her own irritability.
Oh, how do you like that one? I like that one a lot. Meg, you own your own irritability. It's yours, and you sometimes say, I like it, and sometimes you say, I don't want to do this anymore. So obviously Meg has special magic powers that she was imbued with at birth.
like the rest of us.
And I'm not...
Funny, she doesn't look like a unicorn.
It's the hair.
I think it's
No horns.
Meg, you are a role model to us, because it was 2 weeks ago when we talked about being kind to people, and you said, Rabbi, I just don't want to do that. And your ability to just be honest with us of what's going on inside. And then you reported back last week and you said, I wanted to be mean and I wasn't, and I found out that things went easier for me when I wasn't mean to people.
Of course, my tongue was sore from being bitten, but
and Meg, how's it going?
And a good mother-in-law knows.
Have you been continuing to be kind and biting your tongue, and have you?
yeah, I've been continuing to do that. Because it is easier. I don't get the little thrill of nailing somebody to the wall, but that lasts for such a short period of time. And feeling like I got a huge reward for being kind to a couple of people. So,
what was the huge reward?
I did not tell a person in a class I was in that she should shut her mouth and let the teacher teach because nobody wants to hear her. And later the teacher came up to me and said, I was so glad to have you in class.
Oh, that's very nice.
And I felt those two were somewhat connected. Maybe
Right,
they
right.
weren't.
Had you mouthed off, you might not have heard that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you, Meg, and thank you for allowing yourself to be on the spotlight here. There's a phrase in Latin from Saint Augustine, and if I say it in Latin, it gives it a little extra gravitas, so then you know it's important. I might not be saying it correctly, but then again, I can't spell the word tolerate in my native language. So. Saint Augustine said, "Si ille ou iste cor non ego," which translates to, if he or she can do it, why can't I? And I think the underpinning, and somebody who knows St. Augustine better than I, please correct me if I'm wrong, was that Augustine was looking at Jesus and saying, if Jesus was human, incarnate, and Jesus was able to do these kind acts, and Jesus was able to be true to himself, why can't I? And that might be a little high of a role model. And Meg, I don't mean to put you below that, but that's okay. I'll be second to Jesus. That's a fine place to be. Is if Meg can do that, and Meg likes mouthing off and pinning people to the wall.
Oh yeah.
Then maybe we can all do that too.
Right.
Now, why the fuck can't I?
That's that was edited out from St. Augustine, Emily.
Yeah.
But yeah. Emily, do you have any thoughts? Why can't you?
Yeah, I've been working on that this week.
Yeah.
And I've had some success.
Anything you want to tell us about? No is a perfectly fine answer.
No, it's okay.
Okay, fantastic.
That's all right.
Oh, bye, Wayne.
No is the answer.
There goes Wayne.
No is the answer.
The door's closing behind you by itself, which is kind of weird.
No, Wayne's up.
Okay, wonderful.
I'm going to pass.
Thank you for participating. Joe, do you have some prayers at the ready for us to do, as we always do on a Saturday morning? We take a moment for prayers.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Joe, if you would.
Okay, these are the names that I've requested that we think about them this morning. Tanya G, Frida, Rita, Greg Judy, Margaret Francis, Ken Amy, Lauren N, Lauren L, Vladimir Putin, Donald Trump, Jim and Carol Ox.
And let's add to that all the people of the Ukraine who are suffering right now. We'll go for a minute starting at 45 seconds here. Thank you all very kindly. I want to also make a special welcome to I see Patsy and Shirley are both on Facebook making comments, so thank you both for being here as well. And anyone else who's on Facebook who I don't see comments from. I'm glad you're here. Type in the chat either on Facebook or here in Zoom. If you're listening afterwards or you want to be part of the 49 boxes on the screen, go to rotb.org and you can sign up for the newsletter, and you'll instantly get a link to let you in on the service as well. Following up on something from last week, one more thing. Last week we talked about being kind to other people and how it can be kind to us. And there's a large gap that I want to address. Being kind to other people does not necessitate doing what they ask. I'm going to say that again. Being kind to other people does not necessitate doing exactly what they asked. Being kind is sometimes saying no. But there are different ways, and someone, I can't remember who addressed it, about Meg, where she does it without a lot of heat, is you can say no in different ways. You can be kind to someone asks you to do something, you can be kind to them while declining their offer. The same way we talked about the tissue, when somebody if you offer someone a snotty tissue, if someone offers you a snotty tissue, you say, no, thank you. Okay. That's kind, as opposed to saying something Emily might say. See, I didn't curse that time, Emily. Ray, I thank you for laughing. It makes me feel a little bit less alone.
I almost did it for you.
Thank you. One other thing I wanted, if you get nothing else out of the service, here is this, and I did it in non-script for those of you who are under 12 who can't read cursive.
Sorry.
We just can't read.
Singer.
It's okay not to be okay. I think especially with what's going on in the world right now, we need to remember this. Yeah. It's okay not to be okay. In fact, Krishnamurti has a quote to the opposite end of this. He says, to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society is no indication of health.
Amen.
To be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society is no indication of health. Put in other words, if you're not outraged, you're not paying attention. We shouldn't be okay right now. Can I get an amen?
Amen.
Amen. Hallelujah.
It's okay not to be okay. That might take us a little while.
Yeah, it does.
I tell a story. Oh, I had a story really at my head. There it is. I got it again.
Okay.
Story time. One rabbi says to another rabbi, would you give me a blessing? Would you give me a blessing? And the second rabbi says, may you have many problems. What kind of blessing is that? Well, when you have many problems, it's that the dishwasher doesn't work. It's that your car needs oil. Gas is more expensive than you wish. When you have many problems, you don't have just one problem.
Yeah.
When you have many problems, you're doing okay. It's when we have one problem. My wife is sick in the hospital. The country is being bombed. When we have many problems, we're actually doing okay.
Problems have friends.
I didn't hear that, Aaron. I'm sorry.
Your problems have friends.
Your problems have friends. May you have many problems. May you have many problems. And it's my utmost hope for all of us that we all have and continue to have many problems. Okay.
I might go a little bit further than that, just add something because my mind went there, if I may.
Go, Ray, go.
It's also that he gives you many opportunities to have blessings.
Yeah.
Yes.
When we also have many,
Yeah.
many blessings. And in a you can have a fully spiritual life without it being all sunshine, rainbows, and unicorns.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And often, and I got this idea from Pema Chodron, the people who are promoting sunshine, happy, and everything's good are some of the angriest people in the world. They're just bottling it up.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
I want us to go back and looking at kindness, and we're going to look at being kind to ourselves and kind to being to others. And we've used this tool in the past, and I'm going to do a quick review of it. I'm going to unspotlight the video. Oh no, I'll leave that spotlight for you guys. That's fine. And the game goes like this, and it's going to go pretty quickly. So if you haven't been here before, I apologize if this is a little fast, but it goes like this. Here are benefits. Here are detriments, positives and negatives. Here's when we change. Here's when we don't change. And the way that we've been referring to the 4 different quadrants that are made in this is we refer to them as this is the monster. If you don't change, this is the bad thing that will happen. There's a horrible monster. If you do change, you get this pot of gold. The 2 that are the most interesting, and this is what I want us to look at with regard to being kind to others, and then we're going to take a moment, and then we're going to flip it and say what happens if we're kind to ourselves and we forgive ourselves and we tolerate our own mistakes. But first we're going to start with being kind to others. There is a benefit to not changing. There is a benefit to not being kind to others. We don't often look at it. We don't think about it. And then there's a detriment, there's a negative to change. There's a negative to us being kind to others. Let's think about these for a moment. Meg, what's the benefit of not being kind to others?
You have that moment of thrill.
Yeah.
You got them.
There's this thrill.
You get to judge people.
Yeah, you get a thrill of judgment. You get the thrill. It's cathartic. Isn't it fun? Okay, what? I mean, you all know the answer is we know where this is going to lead. But let's admit that not being kind to other people makes us feel good.
Makes us right.
Well, you feel superior.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't last. That's the problem.
Correct. But we can't ignore the fact that should we choose this week to be kind to others, we're going to lose the fun, cathartic moment. It's like with anger. I don't hate being angry and having rage. I hate having been angry and having raged. Because the actual moment of rage, does it feel awesome? Afterwards, the guilt comes and it's awful. But the moment of it is great. Let me hear from some other people who I haven't heard from today. If you are kind to others, there's this new problem. There's this new problem that you've never faced before. You don't have to face as long as you're not being kind to other people. What is a problem about if you are kind to other people, you're going to have this new problem that you didn't have before? And we talked about it with the pot of gold. If you get the pot of gold, you're now going to have to deal with robbers and insurance and other things you hadn't to deal with before you had the pot of gold. If you are now kind to other people, let me hear from someone who I haven't heard from yet today. What's a downside?
You may have to give up a part of yourself, your ego.
You might have to
taking advantage of you.
Vulnerability.
Oh, right. Good. Thank you, Arlene. So you might have to give up a piece of your ego. You're going to lose some of that. And Rob, you said you're going to, what'd you say, Rob? I heard it, but then I lost it.
Taking advantage of you.
Right? If I'm kind to other people, people might take advantage of me. That's definitely
We do that all the time to you.
You take advantage of me?
Yes.
Oh. Okay. So you might be the sucker.
Or the rabbi.
Yeah, you might be on the wrong end. People might laugh at you. Oh, look at that idiot being so kind to other people.
You also could get drained of your resources. If you've ever given money to a charity and then you get flooded by requests, you get drained from your resources.
Yeah.
But you can be kind and say no.
Right. It does take, there's a in-between stage. You're absolutely right, Jordan, of learning to say no. But the fear is that you would just get lost. If I'm kind to people, I might lose myself. I might lose myself in all my kindness. That's a real fear. Okay, good job, gang. What happens if we go... anyone have anything else to add to being kind to others? Let's look a little bit at the positives. If I'm kind to others, I'm going to get this new thing that I haven't had before, which is... What are some of the things I'm going to get that I haven't had?
Peace of mind.
I'm going to have a little more peace of mind.
Being free of that.
Yeah, you're going to sleep
burden.
well. You're going to know, you're going to be free of the burden. You're going to know, I did the right thing.
Yeah. Friendship.
You're going to have some more friendship. You're going to have some... You know, Meg, you talked here about you're going to have a thrill of superiority. I think you can also
feel less alone.
I think you can also get that when you are kind to others. It's a little higher moral ground you can stand on and look down at those other people.
Yeah, I think the other things like feeling good and maybe even developing a positive relationship outrank that feeling of superiority, being kind.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be condescending.
No. That's why I tend to make a lot of mistakes here in public, so I don't want anyone to think that I'm all perfect and all that.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We knew that, Rabbi.
Yeah, that's it's just a teaching tool. That's all. All right, so let's pivot. How about if we do kind to self? That's a mess.
That's better.
If we're kind to ourselves, we might lose this. And we might have a new problem that we've never had before. If we are kind to ourselves, help me
more
fill
opportunities.
This. Say that again, Aaron.
You get more opportunities to listen.
So that's a benefit. Is if you're kind to yourself, what? Let's just go all the way around. Let's start with what are the benefits? If I'm more kind to myself, if I'm more forgiving of myself, if I tolerate mistakes in myself, what's a benefit?
I think there's a first question.
Go ahead.
What is the self?
Oh, gosh.
See, there's a difference between the masks I wear, the roles I play, and my authentic self. And it depends which one I am being kind to.
All right, I'm going to just start with the masks, Carol, because I'm going to rather people just, I mean, if you can't get kind on all the way inside, at least figure it out on the outside. So we're going to be kind to ourselves, at least on the surface. And hopefully it can titrate in. Is that
I think you grow.
We grow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Shmuley.
Oh, I believe that it has happened to me. If I'm kind to myself, the true self can grow and blossom more.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like I got a little bit lost on that after Carol's comment, and I'm having.
Sorry about that.
No. What are you apologizing for?
I don't know.
Alive.
It's all right.
I think if you're true to your masked self, you don't have any integrity there. Because it's not who you really are.
If you're just
It's
faking
who you're
it.
pretending to be.
Okay.
And that's not authentic.
Okay. I have this moment where I'm Ron, go ahead.
If I'm kind to myself, it makes it easier to be consistent in being kind to others too.
Yeah. Ron, what do you think it is that keeps us from being kind to ourselves?
Guilt, the little voice that tells us that we're not good enough, and it just keeps repeating. And so when we do stuff that is not kind to ourselves, we're just strengthening and reaffirming that voice from long ago that we're not good for enough.
So then we get into the cycle of we're not good enough, and then we beat ourselves up for not being good enough, and continue. Michael, that was what you were saying last week. Michael, you still here? I'm going to turn off. Maria, can we stop doing spotlighting? Because I'm getting confused here.
Yeah, sorry.
No worries. No worries. I want to be able to... Michael, are you still here? There you are, Michael, with snow. Can you tell us a little more about... Last week you talked about the second arrow. And I think that fits in about being kind to ourselves.
Yeah. As we were talking today, I was thinking it works in multiple ways. Here's what the Buddha said. I did my Google research. When touched with a feeling of pain, the ordinary, uninstructed person sorrows, grieves, and laments, beats his breast, becomes distraught. So he feels two pains, physical and mental.
All right, so we make a mistake, and then we beat ourselves up, and we feel two pains.
Yeah. Okay. But when you think, so that's like the two arrows, right? The first arrow is the original thing, and then the second arrow is the extra stuff. So we're shot with one arrow, and then we're shot with the second arrow, but the second arrow is optional.
Yeah.
But I think it works the other way too, because we can be mean to people. No, sorry, somebody can shoot an arrow at us by being rude or triggering us in some way. Then we can shoot the second arrow back at them, right, and continue it on.
Yeah.
So it works in multiple dimensions, because it's kind of hard to shoot yourself with an arrow. I don't know, in the foot, I guess maybe. But maybe I'm being too literal.
No. I'm going to take the middle part of what you said. Is that it goes both ways. It's somebody's mean to us, and we say, how stupid was I to put myself in that situation?
Sure.
What an idiot I was. What an idiot I am.
Yeah.
I did that. I should have known better.
And I think the Buddha is also talking about, and this is the hard part for me, is that, something bad can happen to us or to the world, whatever, right? And the sorrow, the reactions that we feel are optional. And that's, to me, I have a hard time with that, because I do feel sorrow. I feel that suffering.
So about 5 weeks ago, I had everyone draw pictures of themselves. Make little sketches of yourselves, and I asked you to consider if you thought it was a good drawing or not, if you thought the sketch was, and I asked you if a 4-year-old gave you a drawing, and I showed you a picture that one of Annie's friends made, that we would never be mean to the 4-year-old who gave us a drawing. And the question that I keep coming back to is, who's in charge? Who's in charge in your mind that you deserve an ass kicking for not doing a drawing as well as you think it should be done? Who's in charge in your mind that says you are bad and now need to get, as Ron said, hit again and again and shame again and again? Who's in charge in your mind?
You're beating yourself up.
Right. And can we, folks, this is not easy. But can we slowly, sometimes a little quicker, learn to not do that? Let me ask it this way. In the absence of what does self-criticism not occur? Oh my gosh, that's a lot of negatives. Let me see if I can. But stick with me.
How many no's are there?
Look, stick with me here. In the absence of what does self-criticism not arise? Self-criticism arises as so long as there's not this. What's
Love.
the this?
No.
Judgment.
Judgment. What's the this? Self-criticism does not arise as so long as there's not judgment. That works. In the absence of
Love.
what else? Love. I heard Rob.
Self-confidence.
Self-confidence, love. In the absence of self-confidence, in the absence of love, self-love, in the absence of
Self-acceptance.
Yeah.
Forgiving yourself.
In the absence of forgiving yourself.
Compassion,
These are
yeah.
all compassion for ourselves. In the absence
Self-esteem.
of self-esteem. In the absence of those things, so how do we get ourselves some more compassion? How do we get ourselves some more self-esteem? How do we get ourselves some more love? And the answer, ding, 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 is it's within. Where else could it possibly be?
You know, in the Hebrew scripture, it says that God created us, human and divine.
Yeah.
Divine image. And we forget the divine image in us.
We do.
And that's what causes our problems. We forget that we're made in God's image.
And
we have choices. We can choose.
And I think, if I can add to that, that we also make the mistake of thinking that God is perfect without mistake and therefore beyond us. And I want to bring in something that I was just reading in a book called Healing the Sacred Divine. And it goes like this. This is going to be the first time I'm ever doing this with a group. But let me see what we can do. She talks about Kohlberg. I don't know how many of you remember from psychology classes Kohlberg. Kohlberg's morality studies. And Kohlberg gave these situations, morally ambiguous situations, and there was no right or wrong answer. You could, in one called the Heinz Dilemma, you could defend Heinz for breaking into the pharmacist's house and stealing the medicine, or you could defend the pharmacist for charging what the pharmacist, it didn't matter which end of it. What Kohlberg was looking for was, to what did you base your morality? And he came up with 3 levels of morality. He came up with 6, but let's just do 3 because it gets complicated. And he said there's this pre-conventional stage, there's a conventional stage, and there's a post-conventional stage. And he said, unfortunately, most people peter out at 2. And the first stage is completely individualistic, where good and bad are equal to, will I get rewarded or will I get punished? And that's it. It's a very selfish, if I'm going to get punished, it's bad. If I can get away with it and not get punished, it's good. And so this is highly individual. And then there becomes this larger group. And that we start thinking of ourselves as part of a family unit, and our family unit is part of a larger community unit. And we look at good and bad with regard to what will happen to the group. Will it be good for the group or not good for the group? And if it's good for the group, then it's good. And if it's not good for the group, it's bad. And idea that comes out of this is a lot of either or thinking. There's us and then there's them. There's good and there's bad. There's black, there's white. It's either or thinking. And this author's point is that this type of either or thinking that comes from thinking of ourselves as part of a group leads to an idea. This is all going to be still part of number 2. Leads to a separation in our head between God and self. That God is outside of us. And where she's pointing to is this third thing where you do something because you understand the greater ideal. That morality is not based in what society says. As we know, society can be completely wrong. Mm-hmm. That morality is based in our ideals, in what we believe to be true, and we do things because we act out of what is right, what is good.
Like Kant, the categorical imperative?
Can you give me a second, Betsy?
Well I never quite understood.
Okay, well, I'm going to leave that be for a second because I want to finish this, and then I'll go to you, Ron, and then Maria, if you had your hand up. No, you're scratching your head. See? Teacher reflex. Said that this ideal, and this was Eric Fromm talked about God being a placeholder for our highest ideals. That the word God is just a placeholder for our highest ideals. And that in this we can see that God and us are not separate, but it's panentheism in a sense. It's that we are part of God. That it's a both and, that we're not separate from God at all. It's just how willing we are to acknowledge that we are in God, God is in us. And it's not this separate idea. First time I'm telling this to a group, so I'm trying to look at your faces and see how that is jiving with you. So can you exaggerate your face for a moment?
Awesome.
To me, it was a really liberating idea. I had never seen this before, that this either or thinking leads to God and us being separate. Mm-hmm. And I mean, there's no certainty in this one. It's a little more woo, but it's powerful. Go ahead, Ron.
I just relate this to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You know, when you have at the first level, you have survival, and this plus minus of good, bad is how it affects survival. When you get to the Maslow self-actualization, that is, you know, in each step in that is when we get to self-actualization, that is our ideals.
If you don't know this book by Scott Barry Kaufman called Transcend, it is taking on. Do you know this book, Ron?
No, I don't.
Oh, you're going to love it. You're going to love it. You're going to love it.
Okay.
He goes through. He goes through.
I got to take a screen snapshot so I can get it.
He goes through Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and he shows that Maslow never called it a hierarchy of needs. That was made up by some business consultant.
Whoa. Really?
Leave it to the business consultant.
And he says, and you can see the little boat here coming through the rings, is that the levels were not meant to be levels. And it's fascinating to find out like who Maslow hung out with. And it's awesome. But that the whole point of Maslow was about transcendence, was about transcending self. And that's the goal. Oh, is this a good read? You're going to enjoy it so much. Okay.
It's going to be on my way in 15 minutes.
Okay. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay.
Library rocks.
Is there an order, or can I?
Go ahead. Yeah, no, it's you, Rita. It's all you.
Oh, okay. Well, to me, we've talked so much about this in like Shekinah and Deep Dive, the whole quantum theory, the idea that we're all sparks in the same tapestry, and there are different metaphors that it works for, depending on where you're coming from. But it's the whole non-duality idea also. It's, to me, makes a lot of sense, and it's much more pleasant than those other options.
Amen. If for no other reason, the other options are difficult. Wonderful, wonderful. I'm going to take a breath for a moment. Candace, did you have something you wanted to share? You got... No?
Not right now.
I'm missing, at this time, I want to make a special shout out to our friend Alex, who usually runs all of the tech. Alex is not here this week. And I thank Maria for filling in. You can see we're not Alex. But thank you for doing what you're doing, Maria. You're keeping me afloat. Okay. Last week, I spoke about the people who need the most love in the world right now might be the people who you are finding the hardest time liking.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, it wasn't popular last week either. That the people who need the most love in the world are exactly the people who you are having the hardest time liking. Ew.
Whatever.
Can I just pop in real quick and say that was when I saw the request to pray for Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump, that's the first thing that came to my mind. It's like, ooh, no, I have no interest whatsoever in being loving and or kind to those two people.
But you left them on the list, Joe. Nobody would have known.
Well, I know. But as I thought about it, here's how I came to a place where I could peacefully say both names. If both those people became loving, they might change the crap that they're doing.
Amen.
Yeah. So it is in all of our best interests to send them love.
Yeah. Oscar Wilde said, "Love your enemy." Oscar Wilde said, "Love your enemies. It really confuses them."
I just hate it.
But let me go Jesus-y for a moment, and just so we understand. Yes, I'm ordained as a rabbi. I think Jesus. This is Martin Buber's idea. Jesus was a prophet, like all the prophets of old, railing against the system that was corrupt and unjust. And there are a few moments where Jesus talks about turning the other cheek, right? Somebody slaps you on one cheek, make them look like an asshole and ask them to slap you again. Walk the second mile. Do you know what that was from? I didn't know this. Walk the second mile. There was a law in Rome that if a centurion asked you to carry their heavy stuff, you had to for a mile. Mm-hmm. That was the rule. You had to for a mile.
1 mile.
Wow.
Go the second mile was a way of saying, they asked you to carry it for 1 mile? Carry it a second. So the centurion has to then beg you and say, no, put my stuff down. Oh, don't worry about it, officer. I'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
The third one was if somebody asks you for your outer garment, give them your inner as well.
Mm-hmm.
Larry explained this one to me. If you give them your outer garment, fine, you're left in your undies. You want to really tell them to go fuck themselves? Excuse my language. Give them your undies as well, so that you're standing there just naked.
Oh.
And making them feel awful for bringing you to this. Being kind can also be passive-aggressive and delightfully anti-imperialistic.
Mm-hmm.
Subversive. Yeah, that's the word. Anyway, I'm going to ask you not to be kind for any other reason except to be kind. Our homework for this week is to continue to be kind to yourself. And I would add in to notice how well you tolerate mistakes in yourself. Can we look at that? Notice how well you tolerate the mistakes in yourself, and see if you can't add a little more compassion. Folks, take a moment, wave to the whole group. I'm going to be concluding this part of the service. We're going to continue with Donut Hour. I do have an announcement or two. We have a talent show coming up on March 16th. All the funds for that talent show, and a bunch of people who are here are making some of those acts. All the funds for that are going directly to support Ukraine. We've already sent $1,500 over to be of help, and if you can be of more help, help is needed. So thank you for doing that. I'm going to end with that. I send you all love, and I'm going to hang up the public part of this. Hold on. There we go.